The great chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so quiet. 12 different species sat around the massive circular table, each one looking at the holographic display that showed Earth spinning slowly in the center. The blue and green planet looked so small, so innocent. None of the aliens around the table thought it looked dangerous. That was their first mistake. High Counselor Thaxal raised one of his forearms. His gray skin was covered in the ritual markings that showed his high rank among the Zarathi people. When he spoke, his voice came out as a series of clicks and whistles that the translation machines turned into words everyone could understand. "We are here today to decide the fate of humanity," Thaxal announced. "For the past 50 years, we have watched these creatures spread across the galaxy like a virus. They take resources without asking. They build colonies on worlds we have marked as protected. They ask too many questions about technology they are not ready to understand." Around the table, heads nodded. Some of the council members had tentacles instead of heads, and these waved in agreement. Others had multiple eyes that all blinked at the same time to show they agreed. The Kretal representative, a being that looked like a walking tree, spoke next. Its voice sounded like wind blowing through leaves. "The humans have no respect for the old ways. When we told them that the Kepler system was sacred to the ancient ones, they built a mining station there anyway. When we explained that faster than light, travel should only be used by mature species, they built bigger engines. They are like children playing with fire," added the Nexari delegate. Her people looked almost human, except for the blue skin and the fact that they had no hair anywhere on their bodies. Dangerous children who might burn down the whole house. Ambassador Zektar of the Velthari shifted uncomfortably in his seat. His people were peaceful and quiet, with large eyes that could see emotions as colors around other beings. Right now, he could see fear radiating from most of the council members like red smoke, but underneath the fear he saw something else that worried him more. He saw anger, and anger made people do stupid things. "Perhaps we should try to guide them better," Zektar suggested. His voice was soft and musical, like water flowing over stones. "The humans are young, yes, but they learn quickly. If we teach them the right way to do things, we have tried teaching them," Thaxal interrupted. "They smile and nod and say they understand. Then they go back to their ships and do exactly what they want anyway. No, Ambassador Zektar, the time for teaching is over." The holographic display changed. Now it showed human ships moving between star systems. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. In just 50 years, humanity had spread to 47 different star systems. Some of the older species in the council had taken thousands of years to spread that far. "Look at them," said the Drakmor representative. His people were covered in scales and had teeth like a shark. They breed like insects and spread like a disease. Soon there will be humans everywhere, and there will be no room left for anyone else. "That is not true," Zektar said, but his voice was getting quieter. He could see that no one wanted to listen to him. "Humans have shown that they can share space with other species. On New Geneva, humans and Altarians live together peacefully. On Kepler Station is exactly the problem," Thaxal snapped. "We told them not to build there. We explained why that system was important to galactic history. They built it anyway and then invited us to come see how wonderful it was. This is not cooperation. This is children showing off after breaking the rules." The council chamber fell silent again. In that silence, Zektar could hear the hum of the space station around them. The council met on a massive station that had been built in neutral space, far from any star. It had been here for over 1,000 years, and in all that time, the council had never made a decision like the one they were about to make. "I call for a vote," Thaxal announced. "All in favor of complete isolation of the human species?" One by one, arms and tentacles and appendages rose into the air. The Zarathi voted yes. The Kretal voted yes. The Nexari voted yes. The Drakmor voted yes. 8 more species voted yes, each one certain that they were doing the right thing. Only Zektar kept his hands on the table. "The vote is 11-1, Thaxal announced. "Beginning immediately, all contact with humanity is forbidden. No trade, no communication, No diplomatic meetings. Human ships will be turned away from all council. Space. Human diplomats will be sent back to their own territory. Any council member caught helping humanity will be expelled from the council. Zektar stood up slowly. His large eyes were filled with something that looked like sadness, but also fear. "You are making a terrible mistake," he said quietly. "Humans are not like other species. When you corner them, they do not surrender, they adapt. They find new ways to survive. And they remember who their friends were when things got bad. They are primitives," Thixal said with a laugh that sounded like grinding metal. "They have barely learned to leave their own solar system. What can they possibly do to us?" Zektar gathered his things and walked toward the door. Before he left, he turned back to look at the council one more time. "You think their noise was the problem," he said. "You are about to learn that their silence is much more dangerous." The door slid shut behind him, and the council members looked at each other. Some of them seemed less sure now, but the vote was done. There was no going back. Within hours, the orders went out across the galaxy. Every council world received the same message. Cut all ties with humanity immediately. Do not answer their calls, do not trade with them, do not help them. Treat them as if they do not exist. On Earth, Dr. Elena Vasquez was in her office at the Global Space Agency when the first reports started coming in. She was a small woman with dark hair and intelligent eyes, and she had spent the last 10 years trying to keep peace between humanity and the Council. She was good at her job, which made what happened next even more painful. "Ma'am," her assistant said as he rushed into her office, "we're getting reports from all our diplomatic missions. The Council worlds are refusing to see our ambassadors. Trade ships are being turned away at the borders, and we just lost contact with the diplomatic station at Centauri Prime." Elena stared at her assistant for a long moment. Then she sat down, heavily in her chair. "Get me President Chen on the secure line," she said, "and start calling in all our people from Council space. All of them. Right now." Over the next few days, the news got worse. Human colonies that had been buying food and medicine from Council worlds suddenly found their orders canceled. Research stations that had been working with alien scientists were told that the partnerships were over. Worst of all, the Council sent a single message to Earth and then they stopped answering completely. The message was short and cold. "Humanity has proven itself unworthy of galactic citizenship. Until you learn to follow the rules and respect your betters, you will remain alone. Do not contact us again." Elena read the message 3 times before she understood what it really meant. The Council was not just angry with humanity. They were afraid, and scared people did stupid things. She called an emergency meeting with all the top leaders on Earth. President Chen was there, along with the head of the military, the chief scientist, and the directors of all the major space agencies. They sat around a table in a secure room deep under the mountains of Colorado, and they tried to figure out what to do next. "They want us to be quiet," Elena said. "They want us to sit in our corner and think about what we did wrong. They think that if they ignore us long enough, we will come crawling back and promise to be good little humans who follow all their rules." "So what do we do?" asked General Morrison. He was a big man with gray hair and scars on his hands from his days as a fighter pilot. "Do we try to make peace? Send them an apology and promise to do better?" Elena looked around the table at all the faces staring at her. These were smart people, brave people, people who had helped humanity reach for the stars. And in their eyes, she saw something that made her smile for the first time in days. She saw anger. Clean, pure anger at being treated like children who did not know better. "No," Elena said quietly. "We do not apologize, we do not beg. If they want us to be silent, then we will be silent. But we will be silent in our own way." President Chen leaned forward. She was younger than Elena, with short black hair and the kind of calm presence that made people want to follow her. "What are you thinking, Elena?" "I am thinking that they just gave us the greatest gift they could possibly give us," Elena said. "They cut us loose. No more rules about what technology we can research. No more limits on where we can go or what we can build. No more council. Observers telling us that we are doing things wrong." She stood up and walked to the big screen on the wall. With a few touches, she brought up a map of the galaxy. Human colonies showed up as blue dots, scattered across a relatively small area of space. Council worlds were red dots, and there were thousands of them. For 50 years we have been trying to fit in, Elena said. We have been trying to be good citizens of their galaxy. We have followed their rules and asked their permission and begged for their approval. And where did it get us? She touched the screen, and the blue dots started to blink. Nowhere, she continued. We are still the new kids. Still the ones who have to prove ourselves. Still the ones who get told to sit down and be quiet when the adults are talking. General Morrison was starting to smile. So we stopped trying to fit in? Exactly, Elena said. If they want to treat us like we do not exist, then we do not exist. We disappear. We become so quiet that they forget we are even here. And then? President Chen asked. Elena's smile got bigger and colder. And then we show up again when they least expect it. But next time, we will not be the scared little humans asking for permission. Next time, we will be something else entirely. The room fell silent as everyone thought about what that meant. They were talking about cutting humanity off from the rest of the galaxy, about going their own way completely. It was dangerous. It was risky. It might fail completely. It was also the most exciting thing any of them had ever considered. I need to know, Elena said. Are we all in agreement? Do we go silent? One by one, they nodded. The decision was made. Within a month, every human ship had pulled back from Council space. Every diplomatic mission was closed. Every trade agreement was canceled. But humanity did not go home and hide. Instead, they did something the Council never expected. They started to grow. Without Council rules limiting their research, human scientists began working on projects that had been forbidden for decades. Without Council observers watching their every move, human engineers started building things that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. Without Council pressure to conform, human explorers started looking for new worlds and parts of the galaxy that no one had ever seen. The Council had wanted humanity to be silent. They were about to learn that when humans went quiet, it meant they were working on something big, something the galaxy had never seen before, something that would change everything. 5 years had passed since the Council cut off all contact with humanity. 5 years of silence from the human colonies. 5 years of wondering what the stubborn species was doing out there in their corner of the galaxy. If the Council members had known the truth, they would not have slept well. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in front of a massive window looking out at something that should not have been possible. Outside, in the empty space between stars, a structure was taking shape that was bigger than most moons. It was not built from metal or stone like the ships and stations the Council knew. Instead, it seemed to be made from crystallized space itself, twisted and folded into impossible shapes that hurt to look at directly. How long until the next phase is complete? Elena asked. She was talking to Dr. James Park, a young scientist who had been working on theoretical physics before the Council decided to ignore humanity. Now he was the lead designer of humanity's most ambitious project. 3 more months, James replied. He looked tired but excited. His hair was longer than it used to be, and there were dark circles under his eyes from too many late nights. But his eyes were bright with the kind of excitement that comes from discovering something completely new. We have figured out how to fold space in 7 dimensions now. Once we can do it in 11, we will be ready for the first test. Elena nodded. Around them, thousands of humans were working on the project. Some were engineers building components that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Others were mathematicians solving equations that described how reality worked when you stopped accepting that it had to follow the old rules. Still others were pilots training to fly ships that could step outside normal space and appear anywhere in the galaxy instantly. What about the other projects? Elena asked. James pulled up a holographic display that showed dozens of human colonies scattered across their part of the galaxy. Each one had a different color, showing what kind of research they were doing. New Singapore has cracked the consciousness transfer problem, he said, pointing to a green dot. They can copy a human mind completely and put it into any kind of body they want. Mechanical, biological, or even pure energy. The volunteers are calling themselves the Eternal Core. Elena raised an eyebrow. Volunteers? Lots of them, James confirmed. Turns out that when you offer people the chance to live forever and explore the universe in bodies that can survive anything, they get excited. We have a waiting list of over 10,000 people. He pointed to another dot, this one colored blue. New Geneva has solved the resource problem. They can convert any kind of matter into any other kind of matter at the quantum level. Want to turn a rock into gold? Easy. Want to turn space dust into food? No problem. Want to turn empty space into solid neutronium armor? They did that yesterday. Elena was quiet for a moment. When the Council had cut them off, humanity had lost access to the vast trade networks that supplied their colonies with everything they needed. Food, medicine, raw materials, technology, all of it had been cut off overnight. The Council had probably expected human colonies to start failing within months. Instead, humans had done what they always did when faced with an impossible problem. They had gotten creative. "Show me the military projects," Elena said. James hesitated. This was the part that even he found a little scary. Titan Base has been working on what they call weaponized physics. They have built guns that shoot black holes, missiles that exist in 17 dimensions at once, so they cannot be stopped by any known defense. Armor that makes matter forget how to interact with other matter. He pulled up another display. The Spartan Corps has been developing enhanced soldiers, not just stronger and faster, but soldiers who can survive in any environment. Soldiers who can think faster than computers. Soldiers who can regenerate from almost any injury. How enhanced are we talking about? Elena asked. Yesterday, a Spartan trooper arm wrestled a mining robot and won, James said quietly. Last week, one of them ran through a wall. Not around it, through it. The wall forgot he was supposed to be solid while he was passing through. Elena stared at the display for a long time. Humanity had been working on these projects for only 5 years. But they had made progress that should have taken centuries. The Council had assumed that cutting humans off from galactic civilization would slow them down. Instead, it had removed all the limits that had been holding them back. What about contact with other species? Elena asked. Non-Council species? James smiled for the first time that day. That has been our biggest success. It turns out that there are hundreds of species out there that the Council ignores because they are not advanced enough. We have been trading with them, sharing technology, building alliances. He changed the display to show a much larger map of the galaxy. Now there were thousands of dots and dozens of different colors, scattered everywhere. The Yithrak are master, biotechnicians, but the Council thinks they are primitive because they grow their technology instead of building it. They have been teaching us how to make living ships that can repair themselves and evolve to meet new challenges. Another cluster of dots lit up. The Nethys Collective are energy beings that the Council dismisses because they do not have physical bodies. They have been showing us how to store consciousness in pure energy and how to manipulate matter with thought alone. More dots appeared. The Corvain build with gravity the way we build with metal. The Zalari can see through time and have been helping us understand how to predict the future. The Makari can fold space like origami and have been teaching us their techniques. Elena felt a cold smile spreading across her face. How many allies do we have now? Over 300 species, James said. Most of them small, most of them ignored by the Council. But together they control almost half the galaxy. And they all remember that humanity was the first species to treat them as equals instead of primitives. The picture was becoming clear. While the Council thought they had isolated humanity, humans had actually been building their own network. A network of species that the Council had dismissed or ignored. A network that was growing stronger every day. There is one more thing, James said quietly. We intercepted some Council communications last month. They are starting to worry about us. Worry how? James pulled up a new display that showed Council space. 3 of their border colonies have gone silent in the last year. No distress calls, no signs of battle, no wreckage. They just stopped responding to communications one day. Elena frowned. Are we responsible for that? No, James said quickly. But the Council thinks we might be. They are starting to send scout ships to investigate what we have been doing out here. So far they have not found much because we have been very careful to stay hidden, but they are getting nervous. Good, Elena said. Let them be nervous. Let them wonder what we have been doing with 5 years of freedom. She turned away from the window and walked toward the center of the station. Around her, the impossible architecture twisted and folded in ways that human eyes were only just learning to see. 5 years ago, this station could not have been built with any known technology. Now it was just one of dozens like it scattered across human space. I want you to send a message to all colony commanders, Elena said. Tell them it is time for Phase 2. What is Phase 2? James asked. Elena's smile got colder. Phase 1 was hiding and getting stronger. Phase 2 is letting the Council know we are still here. Not with words. Words are cheap, and the Council has already shown they do not want to listen to our words. She stopped walking and turned to face James. Send out the exploration fleets. I want human ships at the edge of Council space within the month. Not crossing the borders, not making contact, just sitting there where they can be seen. Let the Council get a good look at what 5 years of human engineering can accomplish. James nodded, but he looked worried. Are we ready for a confrontation? If the Council decides we are a threat, then they will finally be right about something, Elena interrupted. We are a threat. We are a threat to their comfortable little system where they make all the rules and everyone else follows them. We are a threat to their belief that they are the most advanced species in the galaxy. We are a threat to their assumption that they can treat other species like children and never face any consequences. She started walking again, her footsteps echoing in the impossible corridors of the station. But we are not going to attack them. We are not going to invade their space or destroy their colonies. We are just going to exist, loudly and obviously in a way that makes it clear that we are not the same species they tried to silence 5 years ago. And if they decide to attack us? Elena stopped at a massive door that led to the command center of the station. Before she opened it, she looked back at James one more time. Then they will learn why silence was never about being afraid, she said. It was about getting ready. The door slid open, revealing a room filled with humans working at control stations that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. On the main screen, a map of the galaxy showed the positions of every human ship, every allied fleet, every Council world. Status report, Elena called out as she entered the room. All colonies report ready for Phase 2, came the reply from a dozen different voices. The exploration fleets are standing by. The new ships are fully tested and operational. Allied species are in position. Elena nodded and took her place at the central command station. Around her, displays showed technologies that would have seemed like magic just 5 years ago. Ships that could step outside reality and appear anywhere instantly. Weapons that could rewrite the laws of physics. Armor that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Begin Phase 2, she ordered. Let's remind the galaxy that humanity is still here. Across human space, ships began to move. Not the crude, slow vessels that the Council remembered from 5 years ago, but sleek impossibilities that bent space around them like living creatures. They moved toward the borders of Council space with a purpose that was both patient and unstoppable. The Council had wanted humanity to be silent. They had gotten their wish. But now the silence was ending, and what emerged from it was something the galaxy had never seen before. Something that would make the Council wish they had tried harder to be friends. In the middle of the chaos, Zektar felt something that made his blood freeze in his veins. The emotions coming from the strange ships were not anger or hatred or the desire for conquest. They were calm, patient, and absolutely confident. These beings, whoever they were, knew they could destroy the Council station any time they wanted. They were choosing not to. For now. High Counselor on deck, someone shouted, and the crowd parted to let the Zal through. The gray-skinned alien leader looked older than Zektar had ever seen him, his forearms shaking slightly as he stared at the ships. What are they? Thaxal demanded. Where did they come from? Unknown, sir, replied the station commander. They appeared without warning. Our sensors did not detect their approach. They seemed to be using technology we have never seen before. Thixal was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to Zektar. You feel emotions across long distances. What do you sense from them? Zektar closed his eyes and extended his empathic senses toward the ships. What he felt made him step backward in shock. Humans, he whispered. Those are human ships. The observation deck fell silent. Everyone stared at Zektar as if he had lost his mind. Impossible, Thixal said. Humans do not have this technology. Humans cannot build ships like this. 6 years, Zektar said quietly. We have not seen them for 6 years. We have no idea what they have learned or built in that time. As if responding to his words, one of the ships moved closer to the station. As it approached, a section of its hull became transparent, revealing the bridge inside. Figures could be seen moving around what looked like control stations, and while the distance was too great to make out details, their basic shape was unmistakably human. They are requesting communication, the station commander reported. Audio and visual. The Axal hesitated. According to council law, communication with humanity was forbidden. But these ships had appeared in neutral space using technology that should not exist. The law suddenly seemed less important than finding out what had happened to the species they had tried to ignore. Open the channel, Thixal ordered. The main screen lit up with the image of a human woman. She looked to be middle-aged, with short dark hair and intelligent eyes. She wore a uniform that seemed to be made of the same impossible material as the ship's, fabric that existed in more dimensions than the eye could follow. High Counselor Thixal, the woman said. Her voice was calm and polite, but there was something underneath it that made Zektar's empathic senses tingle with warning. My name is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Federation. I apologize for arriving unannounced, but we received word that you might be having some trouble with the Kethmori. Thixal stared at the screen for a long moment. How did you know about the Kethmori? Admiral Chen smiled, and Zektar felt a chill run down his spine. It was not a cruel smile, but it was the smile of someone who knew many things that other people did not. We have been keeping an eye on galactic affairs, she said. When an ancient enemy returns using weapons that can erase matter from existence, word tends to spread quickly. We thought you might appreciate some assistance. Assistance? Thixal repeated. What assistance could humanity possibly provide? Admiral Chen's smile got a little wider. High Counselor, you have been isolated from human space for 6 years. You have no idea what we have become in that time. Perhaps it would be better if I showed you. She touched something outside the view of the camera, and space around the council station began to change. More ships appeared, hundreds of them, all using the same impossible technology. But these ships were not just advanced. They were works of art, shaped like living creatures and burning with energies that human science should not have been able to control. This is just one small fleet, Admiral Chen continued. We have many others scattered across this part of the galaxy. We have been preparing for the Kethmori's return for quite some time. Zektar felt the emotions radiating from Thixal and the other council members. Fear, shock, disbelief, and underneath it all, a growing understanding that the balance of power in the galaxy had changed completely. You were right to be concerned about us, Admiral Chen said. And now her voice carried just a hint of steel. But your concerns were pointed in the wrong direction. The question is not what humanity might do to the galaxy. The question is what the galaxy will do when humanity decides it has been ignored long enough. The transmission ended, leaving the council members staring at a blank screen surrounded by ships that represented technology beyond their understanding. In the silence that followed, Zektar heard Thixal whisper something that sounded like a prayer. The humans had returned, and they were not the same species that had been sent away 6 years ago. High Counselor 3XL had not slept in 3 days. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those impossible human ships hanging in space around the council station like predators watching prey. When he finally managed to drift off, he dreamed. of Admiral Chen's calm smile and the quiet confidence in her voice when she said that humanity had been preparing. Preparing for what? The council was in chaos. Half the members wanted to immediately open diplomatic relations with humanity. The other half insisted that the humans were somehow responsible for the Kethmori attacks and should be destroyed before they could do more damage. Both groups were shouting at each other while the ancient enemy moved closer to the heart of council space every day. 3 more fleets had vanished in the past week. The Kethmori were no longer content to test council defenses at the rim of the galaxy. They were pushing deeper, using weapons that turned ships and entire space stations into nothing more than empty space. "We need to know what the humans have been doing," Luxall finally announced during an emergency council session. "We need to know how they built those ships and what other technology they have developed. Most importantly, we need to know if they can help us against the Kethmori." "You want to send a diplomatic mission to human space?" asked the Nexari representative. Her blue skin had gone pale with stress. "After we specifically voted to cut off all contact?" "The situation has changed," Luxall replied. "The Kethmori are an extinction-level threat. If humanity has found a way to fight them, we need to know about it." Ambassador Zektar had been quiet during most of the debate, but now he stood up. "I volunteer to lead the mission to Earth." Several council members objected immediately. The Drakmor representative, his sharp teeth gleaming in the chamber's light, was the loudest. "Absolutely not. The Velthari are too sympathetic to humanity. We need someone who will be objective about their capabilities and their intentions." "With respect," Zektar replied, "I am the only council member who voted against the isolation in the first place. I am also the only one who has been warning you that humanity was more dangerous silent than they ever were when they were loud. Perhaps it is time to listen to someone who has been right about them from the beginning." The argument went on for hours, but in the end, practicality won over pride. Zektar was assigned to lead a small diplomatic mission to Earth. His orders were simple. Find out what humanity had been doing for the past 6 years and determine if they could be allies against the Kethmori. The mission ship was one of the Council's most advanced vessels, equipped with the best sensors and fastest engines available. It should have been able to reach Earth in 3 days. Instead, the journey took 2 weeks because they could not find Earth. "Check the navigation again," Zektar ordered as they sat in empty space where the Sol system should have been. "We are at the correct coordinates, but there is nothing here." The ship's captain, a nervous Kretal named Vorth, ran the scans for the 5th time. "Sir, the coordinates are correct. This is where Earth's solar system has been located for billions of years, but our sensors show empty space. No sun, no planets, no asteroid belt. Nothing." Zektar stared at the sensor readings. That made no sense. A star system could not just disappear. Stars did not pack up and move to new locations. Planets did not decide to take vacations in other parts of the galaxy. "Expand the search," he ordered. "Look for any sign of human activity in nearby systems. Energy signatures, radio signals, anything that might tell us where they went." It took another week of searching before they found something. Not Earth, but a faint energy reading from a system 300 light-years away from where Earth was supposed to be. The reading was so strange that the ship's computer could not identify what kind of technology was producing it. "Set course. For those coordinates," Zektar ordered. "Maximum speed." When they dropped out of hyperspace at the new location, every being on the ship fell silent with shock. Where they expected to find empty space, they discovered something that should not have been possible. A star system that contained not just planets but structures that were bigger than worlds. Rings of crystallized energy circled a blue sun that burned with impossible brightness. Space stations the size of moons floated in perfect formation, connected by streams of light that pulsed with data and power. And at the center of it all, a planet that Zektar recognized despite its impossible location. Earth. "How?" Captain Vorth whispered. "How did they move an entire solar system?" Before Zektar could answer, their ship's communication system activated without anyone touching the controls. The view screen lit up with the image of Admiral Chen, looking exactly as calm and confident as she had at the council station. Welcome to New Sol, Ambassador Zektar, she said with a smile. We have been expecting you. How did you know we were coming? Zektar asked. We have been watching Council space for some time, Admiral Chen replied. When we detected a Council ship heading toward Earth's old location, we assumed someone would eventually find their way here. Please, follow the navigation beacon we are transmitting. There is much to show you. A new signal appeared on their instruments, guiding them toward one of the massive ring structures orbiting the relocated Earth. As they flew closer, Zektar realized that the ring was not a solid structure. Instead, it was made of pure energy, somehow held in a stable pattern that defied everything he knew about physics. Admiral, Zektar said carefully, may I ask how you moved your solar system? Admiral Chen's smile got a little wider. That is a very good question, Ambassador, but the answer is complicated. It would be easier to show you in person. Their ship was guided to a docking bay that existed inside the energy ring. As they passed through what should have been empty space, the ship suddenly found itself in a vast chamber filled with breathable atmosphere. Ships of incredible design floated nearby, tended by beings that looked human, but somehow more than human. When Zektar stepped off his ship, he was met by Admiral Chen herself. She looked exactly as she had in the transmissions, but being near her made Zektar's empathic senses tingle with confusion. She felt human, but there were layers to her emotions that he had never encountered before. It was like looking at a simple drawing that somehow contained infinite depth. Welcome aboard Harmony Station, she said, gesturing to the impossible space around them. One of our smaller construction platforms. Would you like a tour? As they walked through corridors that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions, Admiral Chen began to explain what humanity had accomplished in 6 years of isolation. The Council's greatest gift to us was cutting us off from all the rules and limitations that had been holding us back, she said. For decades, we had been told that certain technologies were too dangerous to research, certain theories were too radical to test, certain boundaries were too fundamental to cross. They stopped at a viewing window that showed the relocated Earth spinning slowly in the distance. But this was not the Earth that Zektar remembered. This world was covered in structures that seemed to grow like living things, reaching into space and connecting with similar structures on the system's other planets. So we crossed all of them, Admiral Chen continued. We discovered that reality is much more flexible than most species believe. Space and time are not fixed laws. They are more like guidelines that can be bent when you understand the underlying mathematics. You moved your entire solar system, Zektar said weakly. That was just the beginning, Admiral Chen replied. Once we figured out how to fold space in 11 dimensions, moving a star system became a simple engineering problem. Would you like to see what we consider a difficult problem? She led him to another viewing port, this one looking out into deep space. At first, Zektar saw nothing unusual. Then his eyes began to adjust, and he realized he was looking at something that could not possibly exist. Space itself was being woven into patterns like a vast tapestry. Stars were connected by threads of twisted spacetime that allowed instant travel between any 2 points. Entire regions of the galaxy had been restructured so that distance became meaningless. We call it the Quiet Empire, Admiral Chen said. 400 star systems connected by dimensional gateways. Travel time between the most distant worlds is measured in minutes, not years. We can move entire fleets from one side of our territory to the other, faster than most species can send a radio message. Zektar felt something that he had never experienced before in his long life. He felt small. His people had been traveling between stars for thousands of years, and they still thought that crossing the galaxy was an achievement that took generations. Humanity had been in space for barely a century, and they had already rewritten the basic rules of how the universe worked. How many of you are there now? He asked quietly. That is also a complicated question, Admiral Chen replied. We discovered that consciousness is not tied to biology as tightly as most people think. Some humans have chosen to transfer their minds into mechanical bodies that can survive any environment. Others have become pure energy beings who exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. She gestured to a group of beings working on nearby machinery. They looked human at first glance, but Zektar realized that some of them were made of living metal, while others seemed to be constructed from crystallized light. We also learned that death is more of a choice than a requirement. Admiral Chen continued. Anyone who wants to can be backed up and restored if their current body is destroyed. We have soldiers who have died in battle dozens of times and come back each time with all their memories intact. And the beings who chose to become energy? Zektar asked. They can take any form they want, or no form at all. Some of them are currently exploring other galaxies. Others are working on projects that exist in dimensions our original bodies could never access. They walked for another hour, and with each new section of the station, Zektar's understanding of what humanity had become grew more complete. These were not the same species that the Council had dismissed as primitive children. They had transcended most of the limitations that other species accepted as fundamental laws of existence. "Why are you showing me this?" Zektar finally asked. Admiral Chen stopped walking and turned to face him. For the first time since he had met her, her expression became serious. "Because the Keth Mori are not the only ancient enemy that is returning," she said. "Our deep space sensors have detected at least 3 other extinction-level threats moving toward this galaxy. The Council, as it currently exists, will not survive what is coming." She led him to a massive chamber where holographic displays showed the entire galaxy. Red dots marked the locations of Keth Mori forces, but there were other colors as well. Purple dots showing something called the Void Swarm. Yellow dots indicating the presence of beings called the Reality Shapers. Green dots marking the approach of something that the display simply labeled as the Hunger. "Humanity learned something important during our years of silence," Admiral Chen said. "The galaxy does not need rulers. It needs gardeners. Beings who help other species grow and develop instead of keeping them trapped in artificial limitations." She touched the display, and it zoomed in to show Council space. The red dots were moving closer to the core worlds every day. "We are offering the Council a choice," Admiral Chen continued. "Accept us as true equals in a partnership to defend the galaxy, or face the coming threats alone. But we will not be ignored, dismissed, or treated like children ever again." Zektar stared at the display for a long time. The implications of what he was seeing were overwhelming. Humanity had not just become more advanced during their isolation. They had become something completely new, something that made the old power structures of the galaxy irrelevant. "What happens if the Council refuses your offer?" he asked. Admiral Chen's expression became unreadable. "Then we will defend our allies and let the Council defend itself. We will not stand by and watch innocent species be destroyed because of political pride, but we also will not waste our resources trying to save people who refuse to be saved." "And if the Council accepts?" "Then we work together to build something better than what came before. A galactic civilization based on cooperation instead of domination, growth instead of stagnation, innovation instead of tradition." She turned away from the display and looked directly at Zektar. "The choice is not really ours to make, Ambassador. We have already made our choice. We have chosen to become strong, enough to protect the things we care about. Now the Council has to choose whether they want to be among those things." As Zektar prepared to return to his ship with a report that would change everything, he realized that the galaxy was about to discover what happened when you pushed humanity into a corner and then forgot they were there. They had not been sulking in their isolation. They had been evolving, and now they were ready to show the galaxy what they had become. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was the most chaotic meeting in the organization's 1,000-year history. Ambassador Zektar stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by angry voices speaking in dozens of different languages. The translation computers were working overtime, turning clicks and growls and musical tones into words that everyone could understand, but understanding the words did not make them any easier to accept. "Impossible," High Counselor Thaxal was saying for the 5th time. "You expect us to believe that humans move their entire solar system? That they can travel between stars instantly? That they have weapons that work in 17 dimensions? I expect you to believe what I saw with my own eyes. Zektar replied calmly. I walked through their stations. I spoke with their leaders. I watched their ships appear and disappear like they were stepping between different realities. The Drakmor, representative, his sharp teeth gleaming in the chamber light, slammed one clawed hand on the table. Even if this is true, it changes nothing. Humans are still humans. They are still the arrogant children who refuse to follow the rules. Now they have dangerous toys, which makes them more dangerous, but not more trustworthy. They are offering to help us against the Kethmori, Zektar pointed out. After we cut off all contact with them for 6 years, they are still willing to fight beside us against a common enemy. A trap, hissed the Select delegate, her forked tongue tasting the air. They want us to trust them so they can strike when we are not expecting it. I say we attack them now, before they can become even more powerful. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some council members agreed with the Select. Others thought they should accept humanity's offer of alliance. A few suggested trying to negotiate from a position of strength, as if they still had any strength left to negotiate with. In the middle of the chaos, a new alarm began sounding. The emergency alert meant only one thing: enemy contact. Report, the Ixal shouted over the noise. The station commander's voice came through the speakers, tight with fear. High Counselor, we have Kethmori forces dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. 15 ships, unknown configuration. They are heading directly for the station. The chamber fell silent. 15 Kethmori ships was more than had ever been seen in one place before. The council station had defenses, but they were designed to protect against normal weapons. Against enemies that could make matter forget how to exist. The station's shields and armor might as well have been made of paper. How long until they reach us? Thexal asked. 18 minutes at current speed, came the reply. Signal all nearby council fleets, Thexal ordered. Tell them we need immediate assistance. Sir, the nearest fleet is 4 hours away. The next closest is 6 hours. 18 minutes. That was how long the Galactic Council had left to exist. The council members looked at each other with the kind of fear that comes from knowing you are about to die. Some of them were already calling their homeworlds to say goodbye. Others were trying to find escape routes off the station. Ambassador Zektar was doing something different. He was opening a communication channel to human space. What are you doing? Thexal demanded. What we should have done 6 years ago, Zektar replied. I am asking for help. The channel opened, and Admiral Chen's face appeared on the main screen. She looked exactly as calm as she had during their meeting, as if she had been expecting this call. Admiral, Zektar said quickly, we have 15 Kethmori ships approaching the council station. We need immediate assistance. Admiral Chen nodded. We know. We have been tracking the Kethmori fleet since it entered this sector. Are you officially requesting aid from the Earth Federation? Thexal pushed forward, his forearms waving frantically. Yes, we are requesting aid. Please, you have to help us. High Counselor, Admiral Chen said with that same calm smile. 6 years ago, you voted to cut off all contact with humanity. You told us we were unworthy of galactic citizenship. You said we should not contact you again until we learned to follow the rules and respect our betters. Thexal's gray skin went even paler. That was a mistake. We were wrong. Please, we need your help. I am not saying no, Admiral Chen replied, but I need to be clear about what kind of relationship we will have going forward. Humanity will not return to the old system where the Council makes rules and everyone else follows them. We will not accept being treated as junior partners or probationary members. If we help you today, it will be as equals working together, not as subjects serving their superiors. Around the Council chamber, members were nodding frantically. Pride and tradition seemed much less important when extinction was 18 minutes away. Yes, Thexal said. Equals. Partners. Whatever you want. Just please help us. Admiral Chen's smile became warmer. In that case, help is already on the way. View screen switched to an external view of space around the Council station. At first, nothing seemed to have changed. Then the stars began to move. It took Zektar a moment to realize what he was seeing. The stars were not moving. Space itself was folding, bringing distant points closer together. In seconds, the empty space around the council station filled with human ships. But these were not the same ships that had visited the station weeks earlier. These vessels were clearly built for war. They moved like living predators, their hulls shifting and flowing as they adapted to new configurations. Some of them seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, flickering in and out of normal space, like deadly ghosts. "Admiral," Zektar said in amazement, "how many ships do you have currently in this system?" Admiral Chen checked something outside the view of the camera. "About 300. We have more standing by if needed." 300. Ships had appeared in seconds. The Council's best fleets took hours to assemble that many vessels, and they could not move them across the galaxy instantly. The Kethmori ships were still approaching the station, their dark hulls reflecting no light as they slid through space, like holes cut in reality. They seemed completely unaware that the situation had changed. "All human vessels," Admiral Chen's voice came through the station's communication system. "You are authorized to engage, protect the Council station, and show our new partners what 6 years of preparation can accomplish." What happened next was not a battle. It was a demonstration. The human ships moved faster than anything Zektar had ever seen. They did not accelerate or change course like normal vessels. Instead, they simply appeared in new positions, as if they were editing reality to put themselves wherever they wanted to be. The Kethmori ships fired their reality-warping weapons, the same weapons that had erased dozens of Council fleets from existence. The energy beams that could make matter forget how to exist struck the human ships directly. Nothing happened. The human vessels absorbed the attacks without any visible damage. Their hulls seemed to exist in so many dimensions that erasing them from just 3 dimensions had no effect at all. Then the humans fired back. Their weapons were unlike anything in Council records. Instead of energy beams or missiles, they fired what looked like compressed mathematics. Equations that rewrote the laws of physics in small areas of space. Reality itself became a weapon in human hands. The first Kethmori ship was struck by something that made it age 10 billion years in the space of a heartbeat. It crumbled to dust in seconds as entropy caught up with it all at once. The second ship was hit by a weapon that convinced its molecules that they wanted to be somewhere else. The vessel simply came apart as its own atoms decided to explore other parts of the galaxy. The third ship encountered a beam that made it exist in reverse. It unbuilt itself, returning to the raw materials it had been made from thousands of years earlier. In less than 6 minutes, all 15 Kethmori ships had been destroyed. Not damaged, not disabled, but completely eliminated using weapons that treated the fundamental forces of the universe like tools in a workshop. The Council chamber was silent as everyone stared at the view screen showing empty space where an unstoppable enemy fleet had been moments before. "Admiral," Thexal said weakly, "what were those weapons?" "Basic physics manipulation," Admiral Chen replied as if she were discussing the weather. The Kethmori's mistake was assuming that reality has to follow the same rules everywhere. Once you understand that those rules are more like suggestions, it becomes much easier to deal with enemies who depend on them. She paused, looking directly at the camera. "Of course, we have much more advanced weapons available if needed, but there was no point in showing off against such a simple threat." Simple threat. The Kethmori had been an extinction-level danger to the Council, and humans considered them a simple threat. "The immediate crisis is over," Admiral Chen continued, "but we need to discuss long-term solutions. The Kethmori were just scouts. The main invasion force is still coming, along with several other enemies that make them look like children with toys." The view screen changed to show a map of the galaxy with multiple hostile forces approaching from different directions. The Void Swarm was moving in from the galactic north. The Reality Shapers were approaching from the east. Something called the Hunger was coming from the galactic core itself. "The old Council structure cannot handle threats of this magnitude," Admiral Chen said bluntly. "You have spent too much time maintaining the status quo and not enough time preparing for real dangers. If we are going to survive what is coming, we need a new approach." "What do you suggest?" Zektar asked. "Dissolution of the current Council," Admiral Chen replied. "In its place, we establish a true federation where every species contributes according to their strengths, instead of being ranked in order of who has been spacefaring the longest." Humanity will provide military protection and advanced technology. Other species can contribute their own specialties. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each council member. But this is not a negotiation where we ask for your permission. This is us informing you of how things are going to work from now on. The old system failed to protect the galaxy from the threats that are coming. The new system will not fail. High Counselor Thuxal stood up slowly. His forearms were shaking, but not with fear anymore. He was shaking with the realization that everything he had believed about the galaxy was wrong. The Galactic Council officially dissolves itself, he announced. Long live the Galactic Federation. One by one, the other council members stood and repeated the words. Some of them looked relieved to be giving up the burden of leadership to someone more capable. Others looked angry at being forced to accept a junior role in the new order. But all of them understood that they had no choice. Humanity had tried to be good citizens of the galaxy for 50 years. They had followed the rules, asked for permission, and accepted being treated like children. When that approach failed, they had gone silent and built something better. Now they were back, and they were not asking for anything. They were simply telling the galaxy how things were going to be from now on. Over the following months, the transition was surprisingly smooth. Most species discovered that humans made better leaders than the old council had. Instead of maintaining arbitrary rules and ancient traditions, the new Federation focused on practical solutions to real problems. The Velthari became the diplomatic corps, using their empathic abilities to help different species understand each other. The Kretal took charge of biological research, sharing their knowledge of how to grow technology instead of building it. Even the warlike Drakmor found a place as elite shock troops in the Federation military. But the humans remained at the center of it all. The quiet gardeners who helped other species grow while making sure that no threat could ever again catch the galaxy unprepared. In the deepest archives of the new Federation, a single message was recorded for future generations. We tried to tell them they were making a mistake. They just would not listen. Next time when someone offers you friendship, do not make them prove they deserve it, because by the time the proof arrives, the friendship may have evolved into something else entirely. The galaxy had learned to listen, finally.